It's a great privilege, but also a great responsibility to launch this illustrious program and this transformative pillar of the RDIA, shaping technologies of the future, technologies and people. And I thought that it calls for some commemorative verse as we begin. Economies of the future grow from ideas of today. True, they're shaped by forces over which we have no sway, but chance favors those prepared, whose eyes survey the land, who've made the plans and can adapt, whose minds the facts command. We'll rally best minds to the cause, equip, inspire, renew. Not content to watch the trends, we'll help to set them too. The pillars that we rally round were with great foresight coined, and a country with a vision has a mission to be joined. So we at KAUST have aligned ourselves with these RDIA pillars with new research centers in respectively generative AI for economies of the future, renewable energy and storage technologies for energy and industry, health and wellness is represented by a smart health initiative, and the sustainable environment and essential needs pillar by sustainable food security. And these replaced KAUST's charter research centers in July of last year. Now, I'm asked to put together all 5 of the topics that have just been announced, and in some sense, I think cognitive cities is the fruit at the top of the pyramid, which is supported by 3 of these technologies: AI, quantum computing, and space, all of which rest on a pillar of excellence in semiconductors. So I'm here to show connections between these technologies, feature some people, and then seed the panel discussions. And I have to make it fit by going very fast, but the slides are available. Now, you've noticed I left a hole in the middle of this pyramid, and I'm going to fill that hole with high-performance computing in the next few slides. Why HPC? Well, in part because of AI. If you were watching the news 2 weeks ago, you noticed that a startup Chinese company called DeepSeek shaved $600 billion off the value of NVIDIA in a single day and became the most popular downloaded large language model app, surpassing ChatGPT. It did that using NVIDIA GPUs. So how did it erode NVIDIA's value? It eroded it by showing how the GPUs could be used much more efficiently. And that was with high-performance computing. Yeah, they used one AI trick called mixture of experts, which goes back 35 years before neural networks, but they used 6 HPC techniques: static dynamic runtime systems, adaptive precision floating point, overlapping communication with computation, fusing matrix transpose and matrix computations, redundant computation to shrink memory accesses, and coding below the CUDA language layer in PTX. And this was all published in December of last year in a 53-page paper. But we also need HPC for quantum, because quantum doesn't stand by itself. Even if you have a full quantum computer, it's going to read its state at the beginning and offload its quantum state at the end with a high-performance computing system. But we speak really more of the initial use of quantum, which will be in a hybrid context, where data is passed back and forth between a quantum processor unit and a conventional computer, just like with GPUs today. Why HPC? Because of energy. This is a forecast from Lawrence Berkeley National Labs of the percent of energy in the US devoted to data centers. And you see that for up to 2023, it's history, and the next 4 years is a projection. And you see that the projection is up to 12% of total energy. Up until about 2017, it was growing at 7% a year, and then it took off with the advent of AI in data centers, and now it's growing at a combined annual growth rate of 27%. And we need HPC to tame this monster, because a 100-megawatt data center is equivalent to the electricity needs of about 65,000 people in an OECD country. And so for this reason, many hyperscalers are making alliances with the fusion energy industry. Microsoft has just joined the Fusion Industry Association and expects 50 megawatts from Helion by 2028. Another reason to include HPC is because the kingdom is ready for it. This is a group led by KAUST that won the Gordon Bell Prize last November in Atlanta from the ACM, the first time in 37 years that any institution from the Middle East has won that prize for a weather forecasting model. So we're ready to go. Now let's look at the three HPC methods of simulation, data analytics, and machine learning and how they interrelate. Improvements to any one of these improve the other two. For example, data analytics provides to simulation, steering in a high-dimensional parameter space, and in-situ processing of the simulated results. Machine learning can replace models with learned functions and do smart data compression on the fly. Simulation can provide to analytics physics-based regularization, and machine learning can provide detection and classification, and also can impute missing data. Simulation can provide to learning simulated data for training if there's not enough real-world data, and data analytics can clean up those feature vectors for training. If we look at old-fashioned simulation, it's a black box. Data into the model, data out, with no learning of the model. But if we peel off the cover of the future simulation engine, we see that there's a synergy between simulation, which generates data from models, and learning, which generates models from data in a virtuous loop so that we actually improve the quality of forecasts. Now, new entrants like Saudi Arabia should leapfrog. They shouldn't just play catch-up. So this is 4 ways of knowing, as embodied in the KAUST logo, dating back 3 millennia to theory. Then Galileo, who fused theory and experiment a few centuries ago, creating modern science. Then simulation, which picked up after World War II at Los Alamos, and then data analytics, a quite recent revolution in the way we do scientific discovery. Most of the world's great universities and research institutions were founded when there was only theory and experiment, and that's how they're structured. That's where the deans were educated. That's where the curriculum comes from. That's how the labs are created. KAUST was created downstream of all 4 of these ways of knowing in good proportions, and as we go forward, we intend to blend them all synergistically with each other. Here's a schema of the first 100 years of computing, going back to Los Alamos in the 1950s. And about 50 years later, the US Department of Energy said that simulation is now more accurate than experiment in many fields of science. And then KAUST was founded downstream of that revolution, so as where most institutions discover the traditional way and then try to understand with computing, modern institutions try to predict with computing and then confirm with experiments. So let's look at the architectural affinities of HPC methods, simulation, analytics, and learning. We'll look at them with respect to quantum processing units, GPUs, and CPUs. So here is a 384-qubit partition with Pascal, the system that will go into Aramco later this year. Here is a sample GPU from the world's #1 system, currently at Lawrence Livermore Lab in the US Department of Energy. And here is the Grace Hopper CPU-GPU superchip, which is coming to KAUST later this year. QPUs are great and should come first whenever you have something that can use a variational quantum algorithm, the quantum Fourier transform, or quantum machine learning. GPUs are great for apps that have structured data. They're throughput friendly, and in terms of learning, they're very good for training. CPUs are very good for unstructured data, which doesn't fit the GPU matrix paradigm. It's latency tolerant for those things, and it's increasingly regarded as good for inference. So let's look at a cognitive city scenario that blends some of these technologies. You're driving to a lecture, and your clothing detects that you're about to have a heart attack. So it tells your car to find the nearest cardiac suite-equipped hospital and drive you there. And while you're on the way, a computer downloads your medical history to the hospital and diagnoses you and plans your therapy. And your preventative surgery is so minimally invasive that you get to your lecture on time. So this is your shirt, which is instrumented to detect irregularities in your heart. This is Watson, which is trained on 25,000 medical cases and a lot of clinician hours. and outdiagnoses human doctors. This is your car that drives you to the hospital, and this is the Da Vinci surgery system that makes minimal incisions in your body and does the repairs at the hands of skilled surgeons who control the apparatus. Now, all of those things were available 10 years ago. Imagine what we'll have at NEOM. And by the way, when you get there, the students don't care. They would have preferred virtual anyway. Let's try another scenario from space. So there's an insect infestation in date palms that we discover is associated with certain optical signatures that can be observed by low-orbit satellites with hyperspectral imaging. So the radiation-hardened GPU on board the satellite is retrained without having to launch a new satellite to detect this hyperspectral signature as a new data product, and plantation owners are proactively warned to adopt mitigations. So MIWA already employs satellite-based sensing with many imaging products to monitor natural assets in the kingdom. The red palm weevil causes $1 billion of damage worldwide to date palms. The new radiation-hardened cases for GPUs allow actual computing and reprogramming in orbit, providing such things as classification and training on new kinds of images. So here's this space scenario. And yes, one of the RDIA pillars is to go to Mars by 2050. But hey, let's first use space technology to save the date palms. Now, technology and people. A few years ago, I was invited by the Association of Computing Machinery to contribute to their monthly magazine an article on what they detected was an infusion of Arab-trained scientists to the US Department of Energy as new hires because of the exascale training that they got here. And these are the headline and the table from this multi-page article. And I just like to feature 5 of my recent Saudi grads and what they're up to now. You can see where they came from. And Mohammed is now at Hewlett-Packard. And Amani just became an associate technical fellow at Boeing here in Riyadh. Noah has brought quantum computing into NEOM with an Orca system that we'll hear about shortly. Tariq Al-Turkestani was offered a CS faculty position at KFUPM, but he preferred to continue with the startup that now has 700 Saudi employees. And Rabab is currently at MIT on a postdoc working on a high-performance activity that will lead to improved new materials for semiconductors using molecular dynamics. The other side of the people story, where did these wonderful students come from? Well, of course, they came from Saudi universities, but they were trained by the international faculty that was brought to KAUST, largely because of supercomputing. 63% of the KAUST faculty supercompute. I think at Columbia, where I came from, it was 5%. That's the way that the supercomputer has transformed the university and the country. So whether you're impressed with the hardware or whether you think that the soul of the machine is the data structures, the task graphs, and the communication patterns, we are here for you. Can all of the economies of the future combine in one scenario? I asked this to an LLM, but before I did so, I decided I'd create my own construct. So semiconductors, advances there support more efficient high-performance computing, which is the host for the next generation of quantum computers, which will improve AI training and inference, which will make it portable for space, which will enhance cognitive cities. So I asked Poe, and you can do this on your own. I won't read what it wrote because you can access this for free. I asked it the question in blue, and it gave me this scenario linking the 5 technologies. And it gave me that the year 2035 would be when these would be operable. I asked DeepSeek, the new Chinese startup, the exact same question, and it was a little more conservative, pointing to the year 2045, but also a very coherent scenario, harvested, of course, from web pages that we have, as scientists and engineers, made available to them. So my last comment is that this is the 100th anniversary of quantum mechanics. Schrödinger wrote his first equation back in 1925. It was published in 1926. And by 1927, these 29 people got together to ponder the new discipline. 17 of whom went on to win Nobel Prizes in physics, and the UN has proclaimed 2025 to be the International Year of Quantum. I have written an ode to quantum, which I won't read here because it's too long, but I will make these slides available, and you can write me at david.keys@kaus.edu.sa, and I thank you very much for the opportunity to launch this memorable day.